Okay, just want to make sure we don't have any exotics equipped, and then we're just going to go down here, and hell yes. Just wonder if when I run over a dreg, does it count as a fusion rifle kill? What's going on, gamers? This is DBMgamer. That little image at the beginning of the video actually came from Nick Dixon, a pretty cool guy I met in on Google+. So guys, today I want to talk about a Destiny news update. Now, I got a lot of stuff to cover. One of the first and foremost things that's probably on a lot of people's mind is Bungie talked about how they're going to fix vault space. But before we can get into that, I have to get to my shoutouts. My shoutouts is how I like to show appreciation back to the community that has gotten me this far. So I want to give shoutouts to the Dark Traveler of Destiny, aka Kyle, Vesta Gaming Co., Blake Marks, Seth Miller, Viral Nova, I Like Fudge, Nicholas PewDiePie, Jaden Zexel, Matthew McAlpine, and Alex Popper. So guys and gals, as I've said before, in these news updates I like to cover everything, not just what Bungie talks about. So let's talk about something that's kind of burned quite a few people. Now, this is an article that came out of Forbes. Paul Tasai wrote an article on Forbes that Redditor BTG7471 actually contributed to. What he did was he went through all of the trophies that are available on the PlayStation 4 and pulled a couple of stats from them. Now, this is what he pulled from it. Now, it's showing that only 31.1% of Guardians have equipped a piece of exotic armor, only 23.8% of Guardians have worn legendary or exotic armor in every slot, only 24.2% have earned max Vanguard marks in a week, only 23.1% of Guardians have reached rank 3 with the Vanguard, only 19.2% of Guardians have completed a raid, and the lowest one, only 16.9% of Guardians have actually maxed out a Warlock or Hunter subclass, and the Titan falling just shortly behind that with 15.2%. Now, the first thing that springs to mind is you're like, holy crap, those are some really low numbers, and that kind of makes things a little scary. So now let's talk about where he comes from, and I'll tell you where I'm going to go with it. Paul Tasai wrote, "Granted, we see in many games where top tier content is crafted for only a select handful of players, but I think Destiny's exclusivity problem is exacerbated by the structure of the core game itself, and it's something that could be improved upon in future installments." Now, here's what he's talking about. He calls it the gulf. The gulf exists as a space of time between beating the game's story mode or reaching level 20, which are usually roughly about the same time, give or take a few hours, and the promised land in-game where players are able to take on pretty much all the content that the game has to offer. In the levels between 20 to 26 or so, Destiny put players in a weird sort of purgatory where they've beaten the main story and there's no real way to progress there other than doing the daily special story missions, and they're trapped at kind of the bottom to mid tiers of the Strike playlist, where the rewards are relatively sparse. Guardians are far too underleveled for the raid and will find it exceptionally challenging to save up coins for Xur as they are unable to run the heroic strikes just yet. So there are options for more or less to run low level strike playlist or just grind out the Crucible until you get enough random drops for the light level to increase. Now, eventually you do get to the promised land after bridging the gulf. Even if you're not max level, you still exist in a space where you can reliably save up for legendary vendor gear and earn enough coins to occasionally buy something from Xur or see a lot of engram drops from strike playlist. Now, this is the fun place to be. This is the end game, but many players will find themselves swallowed by the gulf, quitting out of frustration or boredom before they get to the end game content. So before I break down his numbers, let's get to this, where he's talking about with the gulf. Now, I do recall when first playing Destiny, way back in September, I did have this 1 week period where I kind of struggled to get to level 26, as I believe was what my goal was. Now, it took me about a week to get to level 20, and then about another week to get to level 26. So, not very long in my case. Maybe I'm a pretty heavy user of the game, I would have to think that I am. And I can say it's probably a similar experience for a lot of other people. So basically, for me, it's sort of boiled down to, if you can't deal with the grind, you can't deal with the grind. Destiny is a bit of a grind game. Once you get past level 20, you kind of have to grind to get to level 26. And then once you're 26, you're able to run the raid. But even once you get to 30, once again, you're still kind of in the grind. All the way up until level 32, and then you're kind of stuck where a lot of us are at. We're just kind of really full vault spaces and nowhere to stick stuff at.
Hey gamer, when are you going to talk about this vault thing?
In a minute. Now, I have to assume, if you're watching this channel, you're probably one of the smarter people that's out there in the Destiny world. Now, the first time that I crossed this gulf that he's discussing, yeah, it did take me a while, and it probably did for you as well. But I would imagine when you went through with your second character, it didn't take you nowhere near as long, or even your third. Because the way that the game is designed to work is that, yes, you'll cross that grind the first time, but you are rewarded. Especially nowadays, legendary drops are a lot more common, and you do get gear for other classes. If you were smart, you just take the gear that you're getting, unless you're really hurting for ascendant shards and you just stick it in the vault. Make a new character, within a few days you're probably already to a decently high level instantly. Now let's get back to those numbers that he posted. Now the only 16.9% of Guardians have maxed out a class. We're just going to go ahead and round that and say 17%. Well, if you take the base number of players that are registered with Destiny, which is over 16 million, and I'm just going to say 16 million period, it's actually probably has gone up a little bit more than that. It's probably closer to 17, maybe even 18 million. But even at 16 million, if you subtract 83% of the player base, you're still dealing with 2,720,000 more players that are still out there that have taken the time to max out their subclass and are probably continuing to still play. So despite the number looking very small, the actual number is still pretty damn large. Now let's talk about this new vault. Now the average dimensions of your normal vault space are actually 20 by 20 by 20. 20 armor pieces, 20 weapon pieces, and 20 general items. Now when we get this new update, 1.12, we will be able to hold 24 armor pieces, 36 weapons, and 24 general items. Now that's a nice little boost, but it does present a small problem. And the problem is this: it's only a short-term fix. The reason why we're actually limited to only increasing by 24, 36, and 24 actually has to do with the last gen consoles, the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Just to implement this fix, Bungie's pushing the tech on those systems so hard that literally to do this feature, they had to disable a simple sharing feature that allows you to compare weapons within your inventory with weapons that are in your vault. That's going to have to be disabled just to pull this off. Even Bungie knows this is pretty much a short-term fix, because think about this in the future. Alright, well, we're talking about House of Wolves. That'll be coming down here pretty soon, along with, 3 or 4 new exotics. And, a raid coming along with that. That'll also have a couple of interesting new weapons that you may want to hang on to. Well, you factor in that, possibly the Queen's Wrath returning, and at some point the Trials of Osiris showing up too. Yeah, those 16 additional slots for weapons are going to get eaten up really fast. But to look at it for the short term, getting 16 additional weapon slots, 4 armor, 4 in general, then you add on to that and we're getting some raid fixes and a colorblind mode. Well, you can definitely tell that Bungie is trying to get Destiny to where they want it to be. The game that you would want it to be is the game that they want you to have. Now, one last little thing that will be coming up in patch 1.12 is actually a small bug fix for the PlayStation 4. Now, this actually got introduced today. Sony PlayStation dropped their 2.5 update for PlayStation, which changed a couple things, changed how the HUD elements kind of look. When you cut off the system, it does look a little bit different. But in Sony's change, it kind of altered a little bit of the coding that's actually within Destiny. And Bungie has been made aware of this. Now, what will happen is when you try to put your PS4 to sleep, it will cause a small bug that will not allow you to, or not allow Destiny to be able to read and connect to the internet. Now the fix is pretty simple right now. Just cut your PS4 off and just cut it back on. And this will also be fixed in patch 1.12. Now the last thing that I want to talk about is this. Now the patch 1.12 is pretty much setting up for the content that's in House of Wolves. Now we've all experienced this before, along with some of the earlier patches to get us set up for the Dark Below. So I want to know, guys, when do you think the House of Wolves is going to drop? Bungie's already stated that it's going to come in second quarter, and that's basically saying April, May, June. Now, do you think it's going to land in April? Do you think it's going to be more like a May? Or do you think it's going to be pushed kind of further out alongside to June? Me personally, my heart kind of hopes for April, mid-April, late April. But my gut's telling me probably around May 12th, May 18th. But tell me what you guys think. Well, if you like this type of content, just hit the like button or leave a comment on when you think House of Wolves will drop. Or if you want to see more, just hit that subscribe button. As for me and my buddy Prime here are going to dance with this ogre. And as always, have a good one.